What are a few of the worst crimes done by the most despicable criminals? Let's find out, starting with number 6, cash for visas. Mohammed Babar Bashir from Manchester, England, got caught orchestrating an illegal immigration scheme involving fake colleges. Cue up the movie Accepted. We know like 5 of you have seen it, but it was decent. Bashir was seen posing on a bed with over £65,000 just before he got caught, but not in a hot way. More like an awkward, "Oh, I'm on this bed with some money. This is so candid. Wow, look at all the money though." Anyway, alongside co-conspirators Tashina Nair and Kadaswara Nalamathu, Bashir operated sham educational institutions including St. John College in Ashton and Kinnaird College in Stevenson Square, Manchester city centre. Despite lacking basic educational resources such as books, equipment, or qualified teachers, these colleges managed to deceive approximately 1,300 individuals aspiring to study in the UK. The operation centered around a cash for visas scam where people paid cash to Bashir and Nayar in exchange for a golden ticket, a confirmation of acceptance of study known as the CAS letter, allowing them to get a student visa. Legitimate students entering the UK typically paid a nominal fee of £14 for CAS, covering an administration fee to the Home Office. But Nalamathu advertised the fraudulent CAS service with or without English proficiency for £500 through his phone. The colleges involved in the scam, St. John College and Kinnaird College, managed to make about £3 million over a 2-year period. The Home Office shut down both colleges when they found out about the fraud. In total, 955 students secured a CAS letter through St. John College, and 352 individuals got it through Kinnaird College. During the trial, Bashir and Nalamathu were found guilty of conspiracy to facilitate breaches of UK immigration law. But Bashir failed to appear at the sentencing hearing, leading to a warrant being issued for his arrest. And why do people pose with money so often? Why is that a thing? Flexing has no upside except when it's to run a scam. Number 5. Dr. Baby Daddies. An Idaho woman, Sharon Hayes, has filed a lawsuit against her former fertility doctor, Dr. David R. Claypool, accusing him of secretly using his own, he's a fertility doctor, so guess what he used? To impregnate her back in 1989. We'll call them mermaids. According to the lawsuit filed in Spokane County Superior Court, Hayes sought fertility treatment from Dr. Claypool in 1989 after she and her then husband struggled with infertility. Sharon specifically requested an anonymous donor, and Claypool assured her that the donor would be selected based on specific traits she chose, such as hair and eye color, and would be screened for health or genetic issues. The lawsuit alleges that Claypool charged $100 cash for each treatment, claiming the money was for college or medical students who donated their mermaids. Last year, Hayes' daughter, Brianna Hayes, discovered the truth. Brianna found out who her biological father was after submitting her DNA to 23andMe and was shocked to find out that her dad was actually her mom's fertility doctor. And Dr. Claypool wasn't only her biological father, but she also learned that she had at least 16 half-siblings in the area. Of course, everyone flipped. Cases of fertility fraud have gained attention in recent years due to the proliferation of online DNA services. The lawsuit against Claypool includes serious allegations of fraud, failure to obtain consent in violation of state medical malpractice law, and violation of state consumer protection law. These allegations stem from Claypool's scheme of charging cash for his own mermaids while falsely representing it as a donor's mermaids. Despite Claypool's claims of innocence, which are pretty flimsy claims considering he's arguing DNA results, the case highlights the pressing need for ethical guidelines and regulations in the fertility industry. And really, what kind of egomaniac nutbar does this? It's not like he needed the money, he's a doctor. There's some real sick issues here. Number 4. Buy more gift cards. Tracy Jones, a resident of Northern California, became the victim of a sophisticated phone scam just hours before she was scheduled for a major surgery. She was already stressed out about the surgery, but she knew that she wouldn't have the energy or be in the right state of mind to take care of everyday life things after her surgery. So, Tracy decided to tackle one last time-sensitive task on her to-do list. It ended up being the worst day of her life. Her ordeal began when she attempted to return some damaged grilling grilling basket she had purchased online. Searching for Etsy customer service on Google, she called the first number that appeared, thinking it was a real customer service line for the online marketplace. On the call, a person posing as an Etsy customer service agent convinced Jones that her account had been hacked. He said that someone was trying to use her account to buy an iPhone and iPads. The man told Tracy to download AnyDesk, an app that would let him take control of her phone. You can probably guess why this is a bad idea. Under the scammer's guidance, Tracy was persuaded into purchasing nearly $5,000 worth of Apple and Target gift cards in person from various stores, including Lowe's, Target, and Raley's grocery stores. Having her drain her bank account would apparently block the hackers from getting to her money. The scammer said he would then deposit the money back into her bank account. He then had Tracy scratch off the card numbers and send him the pictures. Despite growing suspicious, Jones followed the scammer's instructions because she wasn't sure what was going on and, of course, a little freaked out. Right before Tracy was to go under for surgery, she got yet another text from the scammer saying there was a problem. She needed to buy more cards because it wasn't blocking the hackers. By now, you guys already know what happened. Unfortunately, when she later checked her bank account, she discovered that all her money was gone. The scammer used a malicious app that Jones unknowingly downloaded to take control of her phone, allowing him to orchestrate the entire scam. Although the fake number no longer appears in Google search results, this type of scam still, of course, exists, with scammers constantly adapting and changing their tactics. Please let your less than tech-savvy loved ones know to never download anything that lets someone else take control of your phone or computer. Scams like this are becoming more and more common. Number 3. Double whammy. A Brisbane woman who's only going by the name Nikki found herself in a devastating situation after falling victim to an elaborate employment scam. Nikki, who had become her husband's full-time carer due to his severe medical conditions, was desperately seeking a work-from-home job to support her family. She got a message on LinkedIn from a man named Alvis who claimed to represent a high-profile marketing company called Dune 7. Alvis offered Nikki a job opportunity to boost sales for travel companies, promising significant commissions. At first, Nikki was overjoyed by the prospect of finding employment that allowed her to work remotely. However, the situation quickly took a dark turn. Alvis, communicating through WhatsApp and later Telegram, convinced Nikki to complete tasks called expedited journeys. To participate in these journeys, Nikki had to invest her own money with the promise of substantial returns on commissions. Alvis hit her with the "old spend money to make money" bit, common phrase people use to describe necessary spending for business opportunities. Nikki went along with putting in her own money, thinking it was an investment for her future earnings. As she continued to invest, Alvis kept pressuring her to complete more tasks, leading her to drain her entire savings account and take out a $6,000 bank loan. The scammer's tactics became increasingly manipulative, even showing romantic interest in Nikki to keep her engaged. When Nikki refused to invest another $10,000, the scammer's true intentions became evident. Realizing she'd been scammed, Nikki was totally defeated. She confided in her sister, who helped her set up a GoFundMe campaign to seek financial assistance. Scammers take advantage of vulnerable individuals seeking employment, often resort to elaborate tactics to deceive their victims. Authorities and platforms like LinkedIn continue to emphasize the importance of being aware that scams exist when searching for jobs online. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has witnessed a significant rise in job scams in recent years, especially targeting people seeking work-from-home opportunities. They advise job seekers to research prospective employers thoroughly, verify the legitimacy of job offers, and report suspicious activities. Stay alert, protect personal information, and remain cautious when dealing with job opportunities online. Number 2. Selling stolen cars. In her desperate pursuit of finding a reliable vehicle, single mom Ashley McCowan fell victim to a heart-wrenching scam, leaving her family in a dire situation. After meticulously saving for months to purchase a car, McCowan stumbled upon a seemingly affordable 1997 light green Honda Civic priced at $800 on Facebook Marketplace. Eager to finally have some reliable transportation, she contacted the seller, Andrew Arbino. Upon receiving the car title from Arbino, McCowan immediately got the feeling that something was up. The title was written on and names were crossed out, and it looked like there was a forged signature of a deceased person's name and other manipulated information. Ashley figured she had been tricked, so she went to Arbino, begging him to give her back her money and she would return the car. She shared the emotional emotional struggle of saving up the money, pleading for a refund to continue her search for a vehicle. But Urbino never responded. Undeterred, Ashley took matters into her own hands and reported the incident to the authorities, seeking justice for herself and potential future victims. Law enforcement officers investigated her case, leading to the discovery that the car Urbino sold her had previously belonged to an individual who tragically ended their life. Prosecutor Sarah McMahon from the Clinton County Chief Prosecutor's Office said she was pretty sure that Urbino deliberately sold McCowan a stolen vehicle. The legal system swiftly took action, taking the car from McCowan and starting an investigation into Urbino. Sadly, during that investigation, McCowan's financial stability completely crumbled. With no income and no vehicle, she faced overwhelming despair and hopelessness. McCowan said she received tons of messages from other people who claimed to be victims of Urbino's scams, which might make her feel a little better knowing she wasn't the only one. Scammers really don't care how broke or poor someone is. They'll rip off anyone for any amount of money. We've heard about some scammers being victims themselves, forced to run scams by someone else, and we've heard about scammers believing that they're not really doing any harm because everyone in the US is insured, so it's no big deal. These seem like they can be possible explanations for what these people do, but Urbino isn't any of those people and was fully aware of what he was doing. So the takeaway here is that you can never really let your guard down, and probably don't make big purchases off of Facebook Marketplace. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here for our past release to find out about how this cop really worked for the biggest scammer, Hush Puppy. Number 1. Golden Ponzi. Wantani Tibaveth, also known as May Manny, was sought by Thai police for allegedly scamming nearly 3,000 people out of $28.3 million. Tibaveth was accused of orchestrating a Ponzi scheme that promised investors an impressive 93% profit. She had set up a fake gold shop in Udon Thani in northern Thailand to create an illusion of wealth and lure in potential victims. Tibaveth and her boyfriend, Meti Chinpa, faced charges related to fraud and financial crimes. The victims of the scheme were told that they were investing in films and cosmetics, with most initially investing 1,000 baht, which is only roughly $30 US, but some individuals ended up investing millions of baht. 1 million baht is around $27,000. The devastating consequences of the scam led some victims to take their own lives after losing substantial sums of money. To attract victims, Tipaveth utilized social media platforms, showing off her fake wealth with photos of gold jewelry and celebrities in luxurious settings. Her online presence, coupled with false promises of significant returns, successfully lured unsuspecting individuals into her scheme. As it turns out, her shop wasn't much more than a countertop in the corner of some office somewhere, where she had taken pictures with what was most likely fake jewelry. Despite the freezing of her assets by Thai authorities, Tipaveth taunted law enforcement on social media, claiming she could always find more money, and it always works out when you taunt law enforcement, right? In response to Tipaveth's scam, victims of a similar Ponzi scheme called Forex 3D protested outside the Department of Special Investigation headquarters in Bangkok. Tipaveth's case is just another in the growing line of investment scams in Thailand, prompting victims of other schemes to demand action from the authorities. Tipaveth and her boyfriend faced accusations of defrauding 2,500 people based on false promises of extraordinarily high returns of up to 93% per month, resulting in damages totaling 1.3 billion baht, or $28.3 million. Tipaveth said characteristically dumb things when confronted about the possibility of jail time, and claimed she was actually a victim. In spite of her bold statements, the court sentenced her and her boyfriend to the maximum jail term of 20 years anyway, taking into account their confessions, and ordered them to compensate the victims. In March of 2022, a scandalous document went viral on social media. It alleged that the famous Nigerian influencer Hush Puppy, who's currently behind bars in the US, managed to scam people online for $400,000. In reality, the document, which looked like it came from the FBI, was a forgery. Still, people believed it anyway. The United States government even issued a statement clarifying that the document was a fake and that Hush Puppy was not scamming people from jail. That's how powerful his reputation is. Before we dive into how Hush Puppy wound up in jail, a story you may know very well, let's talk about how he basically had the Nigerian police department in his back pocket. In February 2021, the FBI filed documents implicating Nigerian police chief Abba Kyari in a $20,000 bribe scheme, or the equivalent of 8 million Nigerian naira. The bribe stemmed from a scam gone south in which Hush Puppy tried to rip off one of his associates by not paying him what he was owed. The associate, Kelly Vincent, set up a meeting in Qatar between Hush Puppy, some other accomplices, and a gullible Qatari businessman. Hush Puppy arrived in Qatar and planned on scamming the wealthy businessman. If the scam worked out, Vincent expected a healthy commission. However, that meant everyone had to play their roles perfectly. Hush Puppy played a Wells Fargo banker from New York named Malik. His two accomplices played the finance guys. They helped assure the Qatari businessman that the investment was a guaranteed profit even though they were investing in a school. Hush Puppy said the school needed a little over $1.1 million. Once the businessman heard enough from the other finance guys, aka Hush Puppy's accomplices, he said yes to the offer. The businessman gave Hush Puppy the $1.1 million, who proceeded to launder the money by handing it off to several other associates. However, greed got the better of him. He sent Vincent some money, but not everything they agreed on. Upset, Vincent called the Qatari businessman and sang like a bird, telling him all about the scam. Hush Puppy was understandably upset and ordered the Nigerian police on his payroll to capture Vincent and keep him behind bars. He wired money into Abba's account, and the chief took care of the rest. Vincent spent a month in prison, even though nobody ever filed any charges. Instead, Hush Puppy kept paying the cops to keep the door locked. Hush Puppy's real name is Ramon Abbas. Despite being in jail for several major criminal charges, he still has a massive online following. His many followers are treated to hundreds of selfies of Hush Puppy standing in the most lavish and expensive-looking locations with exotic sports cars, private jets, and fine art perfectly placed in the background. Through his Instagram, Hush Puppy created a persona that embodied the flex culture. Every single one of Hush Puppy's posts, usually shot by an off-screen photographer, shows off his wealth in one way or another. Flex culture hasn't been around forever, and it'll forever be around. Plenty of people can't help but want to see that they can afford expensive clothes and toys by posting them online and being seen out in public. Hush Puppy went from being a shining example to a dedicated disciple of all things flex, a transition that ultimately led to his downfall. But how did Hush Puppy actually get famous? Where did he come from? In contrast to the wealth displayed on his Instagram, Hush Puppy grew up as a poor kid in Lagos, Nigeria, where he was born in 1982. We don't know much about Hush Puppy's childhood except for the few times he mentioned it on Instagram, along with a few unreliable sources from Lagos. Hush Puppy usually describes his childhood as poverty-stricken, as do the neighbors who watched him grow up. His father drove a taxi, while his mother sold bread on the side of the busy roads. Meanwhile, Hush Puppy, then called Ramon, earned money by selling second-hand clothes and bread like his mom. He also made some cash by washing parked cars on the street. According to the few records available, Hush Puppy didn't obtain fame and fortune until his big move to Malaysia. According to him, he moved there to achieve a better life. And sure enough, after moving to Malaysia, Hush Puppy got rich out of nowhere. And he wasn't afraid to show off his newfound money. But you already knew that. Before long, Hush Puppy had gained a following. He was famous for being rich, leading many of his followers to ask how. The media wanted to know too. Unlike titans like Zuckerberg and Elon, Hush Puppy didn't have a corporate entity associated with his name. So a few media organizations started asking Hush Puppy for interviews. However, when journalists asked him how he earned his money, the flex culture enthusiast always gave the same vague answer: real estate development. However, there aren't any major real estate projects attached to Hush Puppy's name, nor any companies. The lack of records only helped to fuel Hush Puppy's Gucci-draped mythos. Hush Puppy's posts received praise from his adoring followers, who often left comments like Hush, as they sometimes called him, was their inspiration. They believed Hush Puppy built his luxurious lifestyle through smarts and, most importantly, hustle. The only people who didn't believe Hush Puppy's real estate mogul-turned-influencer persona were American federal investigators. They, along with international investigators and journalists, questioned the source of Hush Puppy's wealth and got some crazy answers in the process. A journalist from The Cable, a Nigerian media organization, visited the area where Hush Puppy, or Ramon as they knew him, grew up in Lagos. They interviewed a few of Hush Puppy's old neighbors who painted a different version of Hush Puppy than his millions of fans were familiar with. One neighbor, known to locals as Mama Deli, says Hush Puppy came by her home on occasion to beg for food. Mama Deli told the reporters that she only gave away food on credit, as she was strapped for cash just like everyone else in the neighborhood. She says Ramon ate her food several times without paying her back. He'd show up, hungry and pitiful looking, ask for more food, and leave with promises to pay her back. He kept that habit until one day, Mama Deli says Ramon stopped coming by. She didn't know it at the time, but he wasn't just avoiding his debts, he was working on a scam. The other neighbor the cable interviewed chose to stay anonymous, but provided some interesting details on where Hush Puppy disappeared to. The anonymous neighbor says Ramon had access to a computer where he was becoming a Yahoo boy. The term is based on the email server Yahoo. People like Hush Puppy would send emails to the millions and millions of Yahoo email accounts, back when people still used them, to trick their victims into giving them money. The cable says they've investigated several Yahoo cases in Nigeria. They usually involve someone claiming to be an American soldier stranded in Africa, asking a fellow American for money to help get them back home. When Ramon first tried Yahoo scams, he was unsuccessful. The anonymous neighbor says he was only making a few bucks here and there. Young Ramon's fortunes changed when he traveled to South Africa and learned more effective Yahoo methods from pro scammers who lived there. The neighbor says Ramon returned to Lagos with the tools for success and started making some serious money. Mama Deli recalls seeing young Ramon turn up one day, cash in hand. He walked up to her house and paid off all his debts. Then she said Ramon paid her to cook up a batch of peppered catfish soup. As time went on, young Ramon's spending only got more lavish. Another neighbor said that even after Hush Puppy moved out of the area, he'd still send money back to his friends for food. He told them to buy rice, beans, oil, and deliver them all to his mom. Speaking of his mom, he also bought her a car. Ramon's mother, according to the other residents, knew her son dealt in some kind of illegal business. However, she didn't know what kind. When Ramon asked his brother Yusuf to join and become his business partner, their mom put her foot down. She wanted at least one son to have a legitimate career. Ramon still visited his old neighborhood from time to time, despite people like his mother not liking him all that much. By this point, most knew Ramon as Hush Puppy, and his wealth was famous online. The locals in Lagos considered Hush Puppy a billionaire and expected him to give money back to the community that raised him. Mama Deli remembers when Hush Puppy visited her for the last time in 2018. He pulled up in a nice car and they greeted each other enthusiastically. Then he gave her 5,000 naira, the equivalent of $12. Others in the neighborhood criticized Hush Puppy for only giving Mama Deli $12, but she told journalists she was happy to get it at all. It was probably because Hush Puppy gave almost nothing to the rest of his old neighborhood. A hotel owner asked Hush Puppy to buy his business, hoping the so-called billionaire could fix it up and turn the place into a high-end establishment. Hush Puppy refused. Hush Puppy's goals didn't include Lagos. They were much bigger than that. He wanted to be important and spend time with important people. He wanted to leave his origins behind, not revisit them by pumping money into it. And like Hush Puppy's childhood neighborhood, the Yahoo scams got too small for him. While traveling abroad, mainly in Malaysia, Hush Puppy participated in a few smaller scams until he reached his mid-20s. That's when Hush Puppy pulled off his two biggest and boldest scams of his illicit career. Unlike other fraudsters, Hush Puppy actually owned most of the expensive stuff he flexed online. Dealerships and jet companies have verified to inquiring journalists that Hush Puppy did in fact rent private planes, own Ferraris, Lambos, Rolls Royces, and the designer clothes he always had on. The flashy appearance inevitably attracted other new money individuals concerned with appearances. Most of them were European soccer players. Hush Puppy was good friends with English striker Tammy Abraham in particular. On Hush Puppy's 37th birthday, one of his last birthdays as a free man, Abraham told his big bro, "Happy birthday," in an Instagram post. Over time, Hush Puppy got to know other players and became well acquainted with Premier League social circles. Eventually, Hush Puppy and one of his business partners, Caleb Alamari, saw the Premier League as their next victim. His lawyer claims Hush Puppy earned his massive income from real estate development and being an influencer. In reality, Hush Puppy's fortune was built on BECs. In case you're unfamiliar, a BEC stands for Business Email Compromise. More specifically, it's when a hacker gets hold of a company's email address and tricks their customers into paying them money. For example, when Hush Puppy and Caleb tried scamming the Premier League, they first had to gain access to the organization's emails. Hush Puppy and his associates were supposedly working with hackers who had connections to state-sponsored hackers in North Korea. Once the hackers logged into the league's accounts, they could send emails to their contractors or people they did business with. Then they sent emails with new bank information and instructed the companies pay their bills to this bank instead of the old one. Companies, blissfully unaware, obliged and sent whatever money they owed to the new account. Then Caleb cleaned the money from the bank account by laundering it through other accounts and businesses. Hush Puppy and Caleb's scam seemed smart. However, this particular scam was doomed from the beginning. They planned to steal $124 million from Premier League, an amount that most sports organizations was bound to notice. But up to that point, Hush Puppy had been undefeated in BEC scams. Experts believe the Nigerian influencer was getting cocky enough to try and pull off an impossible heist. They believe this hypothesis because of the Premier League fiasco and other brazen theft attempts he made in Malta. In February of 2019, the Bank of Valletta was cyber-attacked by the equivalent of a digital missile assault. The hackers savagely ripped and tore through the bank's systems, making off with around $14 million. Coincidentally, that's the same amount the FBI claims Hush Puppy tried to launder on the same date. Though the bank isn't named exclusively in the document, it would be a bizarre coincidence if the foreign financial institution described in the document isn't the same one in Malta. Whether it's a coincidence or not, Hush Puppy moved the stolen money to 4 different accounts spread across the world, and the FBI knew all about it. Thankfully, the bank traced the money and got it back into their customers' accounts. The FBI followed the money movements back to Hush Puppy by linking together texts he sent to Caleb. In the exchange, Hush Puppy asked Caleb if the money had come in yet. Caleb said yes, it was in Canada. Then, Hush Puppy asked for a screenshot, and Caleb said he'd send one after his flight. He never got the chance. FBI agents were there waiting for Caleb at the airport. Meanwhile, Hush Puppy was in Qatar, busy scamming the wealthy businessman. Hush Puppy and a few friends moved out to Dubai. One of those friends was an old pal from Lagos named Pak. Though Hush Puppy failed to give money to his Lagos community, he did, in fact, bring some of the community into his money. Hush Puppy tried to enjoy Dubai with his old friends, especially Pak. But during his vacation, Hush Puppy got 2 pieces of bad news. Galeb and another associate named Mamfa had been arrested at airports. Nevertheless, Hush Puppy was business as usual, posting pics in front of sports cars and snapping on boats with Dubai's skyline dominating the background. The fun ended on June 8, 2020 at about 1 in the morning. Pak was watching TV when a team of Dubai SWAT agents erupted through the door and ordered him to lay on the ground. They went upstairs to Hush Puppy's bedroom and found him in his bed, dazed and confused, probably wondering why a bunch of armed soldiers were in his suite. They arrested every individual staying with Hush Puppy, then asked them where the money was. Eventually, they found Hush Puppy's stash. It included 21 laptops, 47 phones, $7 million worth of exotic cars, and $40 million in cash. No criminal wants to be extradited to the United States. But after Dubai police found the evidence in his suite, U.S. officials had more than enough to extradite him to an American jail. As of April 2022, Hush Puppy is awaiting trial and conviction for a laundry list of fraud. In other words, his passionate fans may not see him for a while. As for Chief Abba, he pled guilty to multi-million-dollar fraud charges in August 2021 and faced up to 20 years in jail. Then, things got even worse. Abba was caught working with a drug smuggling ring after the Hush Puppy saga. Now the ex-chief faces even more jail time. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what you'd rather do for the same house. Pay $500,000 and have a mortgage with a 2% interest rate, or pay $350,000 and have a mortgage with a 6% interest rate.